good morning. It's Kate from the Kiwi Kids Bookstore, and I'm joined this morning by Whangarei author Donna Blaber, who is going to talk to us about writing middle fiction for 9 to 12-year-olds. So, Donna, welcome. And would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started writing for children?
Hi, Kate. I started writing for children. Originally, I started out as a journalist and I was the editor on some magazines. And my first book was actually non-fiction.
Hmm.
And when my own children came along, I've got twin daughters, I wrote a series called The Kiwi Critters. Um, and I loved writing that, and it inspired me to go back to uni as a very mature at that point student
Yeah.
and study for a master's in creative writing. And I focused on writing books for tweens,
Hmm.
sort of clean, soft YA for 14-year-olds that has the ability to reach down into younger audiences as young as 10.
Hmm. Great. And that you're talking about your current series, the Just series. What are the things that inspired you to write those books?
Well, I was at the beach. I was walking along just at a local beach called Whangarei, which is right here on the Tutukaka coast.
Hmm.
And I was just minding my own business, walking along the waterline, and I found this rock. And
Wow.
I love rocks. They really excite me. And it took me about a year just thinking about this rock, just looking at it. You can see it's got chips out of it. It's
Hmm.
sort of been in the ocean a long time. It's obsidian.
Yeah.
Um, and I did a lot of research into obsidian. I discovered that this wasn't from Tuhua Island in the Bay of Plenty, otherwise known as Mere Island, because the rock that came from there came in slabs. And
Mm.
then there were working stations where they set it up and they turned it into knives, and talking about the early Māori.
Mhm.
The Moa hunters, however, carried around rocks that looked like this. So that led me to believe that it once belonged to a Moa hunter. And then, once my imagination engaged, all
Yeah.
kinds of things happened. It was quite a find. I never thought I'd find another one, but lo and behold, number
Wow.
two.
Yeah.
So that formed the inspiration for Just Remember. And then just as a writing, I didn't find this one. I found it actually at a market, but as a writing device, I purchased this at a market from a lovely lady, and it sat with me when I was writing my latest book called Just
Wow.
Keep Going. Yeah, so
Wow.
the series revolves around these stones which keep appearing, and there's always a young girl there to collect it,
Mhm.
and a mystery unfolds to do with the magical stones. But I incorporate themes, really contemporary themes for young people today. There's a lot going on out there in the world, and I like
Mm.
to hold some of that into my writing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, having read your stories, I can see how those themes they're really important for young people. But you write it in a kind of a gentle way. It's not telling people stuff. It's letting people get involved in the story, which I love. So
Oh, thanks, Kate.
your most recent book, Just Keep Going. Have you got any few things you can tell us about that?
Well, yes, it's just about to launch,
Hmm.
and although people watching this, it might have already launched by the time they watch it.
That's all right.
It's a story of blended families, new friendships, marine pollution. Of course, it's got a magical stone in it,
Yeah.
and there's a very persistent dolphin. And Becky is my main character. And she's a young girl. She's got a very strong will to succeed, and she's adapting to life in a new country.
Hmm.
And as with the other books, anyone who's read those, she's going to meet, or she does meet, I should say, Jessie and Mia, and of course M from Just Remember.
Right.
Um, and an adventure unfolds. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great read. I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people will relate to the blended family theme, and see the challenges that you face and maybe how she's been able to get around those. Um, Writing for this age group, is there a particular reason that you enjoy that? Is it something from your own childhood that makes you enjoy writing stories for sort of 10, 12, 11, 10, 12, 13 year olds?
I think I enjoy writing about it because it's a really, well, writing for these kids because it's a really pivotal moment in childhood.
Hmm.
You go from reading, picture books and, first chapter books, and, intermediate age is an age where you might stop reading if there's not material that appeals to you.
Hmm.
And I like that challenge. I don't know that I've got it completely right yet, but I will keep practicing.
Yeah. No, well, I think you do a great job, but you're right. It's a really important age, isn't it, to sort of find the stories that mean something to you, whether it's escapism or some connection to your real life or whatever. Every child's
Yeah.
different, which is why we need such a big array of books. And just our last thoughts really around New Zealand stories for Kiwi kids. Why do you feel that's important?
Well, I think it's not just only important, I think it's absolutely imperative. And the reasons I think that is because in the 70s, yes, I'm old, in the 70s, I grew up on a steady diet of Enid Blyton. I was reading those, started reading those when I was about 6, and by 7, I'd finished off probably every book she'd ever written. Then I moved on to like Arthur Ransom's Swallows and Amazons, and I loved that as a Kiwi kid because I was a water baby and I sailed, so it
Hmm.
really appealed. Um, but the scenes and the landscapes, they were familiar, but they weren't home.
Hmm. Yeah.
So then came New Zealand authors like Tessa Duda, Morris G, and finally there were authors that I could actually relate to.
Hmm.
There were words in those stories that I understood,
Yep.
especially Tessa's.
Yep.
Um, I became her characters when I read her stories. Night Race to Cowell, I was Sam. I mean, you just can't get
Yeah.
a more New Zealand themed story.
Yeah.
And back then, I guess then it might have been the early 80s. Um, it was just so valuable to me.
Mm.
It was life changing.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I really think it's about identifying with yourself, seeing yourself reflected in what you're reading,
Yeah.
and that's really important for your self-worth as a child.
Mm.
It shows that if we're in our stories, if we see our surroundings, things we see every day around us, it shows that we actually matter enough for people to write about us, to write us into
Mhm.
stories and write about the places we know.
Mm.
On top of that, I think it's actually so much easier for the kids to understand and easier to relate to. If I go back to my own experience with the sailing and with Tessa's work, I could relate to that.
Mm.
So, one of the things I try to really focus on is writing stories that are relatable so that they're contemporary for today's issues that are going on in the background.
Mm.
But at the same time, they pull in beachy scenes in the forests and the rivers and the just everything we're used to. It's
Yeah.
easier for Kiwi kids to understand these stories. It will keep them reading. New Zealand kids are beach kids. There's no one very far from the ocean here. So we have
Yeah.
a huge vocab around this. Our vocabulary to do
Yes.
with the ocean and the beaches is huge.
Yes.
Even at like 10 years old, we've got a very full vocabulary.
Mhm.
And even younger children as well. So, right from picture books all the way through, it's not just important, as I say, it's imperative
Yeah.
that we have stories written by Kiwi authors for children in their surroundings. It's good for their self-worth, it's
Yep.
good for their reading, and I think overall it will be help improve New Zealand literacy.
Yeah, and I think you make some really excellent points there, that being able to see yourself in the stories and understand the landscapes and the colors and the smells and the flora and fauna that we talk about, and yes, I was Swallows and Amazons kid too, and that was all wonderful, and I went there and it was amazing, but
Mm,
it wasn't my story. It wasn't my home and how I grew up sailing on Lake Taupo or anything like that. So yeah, I
mm,
completely get it. Yeah.
mm,
That's fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing Just Keep Going in the Kiwi Kids Bookstore. Yes, show us
Thank
a
you.
copy. It just looks like it's going to be another fantastic story from you, and we look forward to seeing some great reviews from people as they start coming in. And yeah, just say thank you very much for spending time with us today and being part of the Kiwi Kids Bookstore. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate. It's
Okay,
lovely to be part of it.
okay, talk soon. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.